Aloha.
Mm, good to see you. Mm. Might take the time to look at the other beings on the other pages from you. Okay. It was great to get a chance to do a retreat with some of you this past bit of time. Thank you for that. Mm. It was great. Mm. Great to see everybody. Well, we're heading into the darkest day of the year in terms of light and dark. And some people lean into maybe wanting to hibernate, but cannot. But there's also a way to deal with it, which is to bring more compassion into this world. Kindness, care, tenderness, wisdom. Mm. So as you settle into your sitting posture, lying posture, kneeling posture, you can notice the quality of your awareness. And no matter what's happening, seeing if you can bring some appreciation that we're sitting together right now. Just receiving the goodness of that. Receiving the intention of pausing out of the static, the inner and outer static, out of great care. And so much of the practice is receiving the care, receiving the kindness. And caring about the vulnerability that we all share. That we never know what's going to happen next. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, Vedana. And caring about that for all of us. So as we settle our attention around our body, within our body, noticing that hearing is happening. And just seeing if you can bring some care to the vulnerability of hearing itself. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, streaming along. And as we shift to the Vipassana, shifting to receiving the vibrations and textures of sound directly, allowing for pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Just like listening to music, including the silence that has a texture. And of course, including that thinking will happen, thinking about the sounds, even when we just notice the word car, silence, bird, bee, heat. You never know what thought will appear. But just noticing that thoughts come and go just as they are, just like the sound. No problem. And it can be interesting to notice the body sensations coming and going, just like sounds, textures, vibration, coming and going, just as they are, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So sometimes it's helpful to anchor or settle the attention with the hands, the sensations within the hands for a while. Again, the emphasis is on a receptive awareness. And noticing what happens to the sensations when you notice them. Really discerning the difference between the words, my hands, and the direct sensations. and with the movement of the breath. And if you can, at times, seeing if you can connect the attention with the movement. And just as it's happening, if you can, even if it's for a few seconds. Receiving directly the aliveness of this movement. The word breath is not alive. And if there are times when we can't have the attention close or connected as it's moving, that's fine. You notice it from a very open field of awareness. No problem. As we connect our attention, stay with the life of the movement till it disappears. We understand its nature. The nature of how things are. Which often can bring more care and tenderness and kindness. And at times, of course, we just let the attention connect and flow with our sixth sense door, moment to moment awareness. Get lost in thought, notice it, jump back into the flow or stream of change, or anchor. Finding that rhythm, finding that skillful means. With great care, kindness, tenderness, as best we can.
Thank you, Michelle. We have some time today for questions if anyone has them about your practice, about the instructions, about practice life. Any maybe folks going back into the world from the retreat, whatever it may be. Any way that we might be able to support. Um, we hope to be able to. And so the best way to let us know that you have a question would be at the bottom of the screen. There's a button that says raise hand. You can click on that and let us know. Or if that doesn't work, you can type into the chat to me that you have a question. I'll call on you, or you can wave your actual hand around, and we'll notice you. We'll see that you have a question. Hi, Victor. Oh, hold on. I have to be able to see. Now you should be able to unmute.
Yeah, I can unmute.
Great.
Hi,
Hi,
Victor.
long time since I've been able to check in with you. Um, yeah, for for some years now, just experiencing fear. It's still very prevalent. I'm not able to um, reach out too much. A lot of isolation going on, but my mindfulness is really strong, and I see how the mind can get very ruthless with negative thoughts that are getting pretty creative and strong. And I remember, Jesse, a good while back at Vallecitos, you said, just don't practice so much and integrate into regular life and just find ground. So I guess I'm here to say hello and hear you say once again, you know, don't practice so much and find ground.
As if you could just turn it off, right? As if you could just turn it off, right? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I fiercely wished I could turn off or turn down the negativity or um, release the fear, but it's a classic case of seeking comfort and seeking to say no to the thoughts or the feelings, and then that just is been building. And I guess I want to try to accept when I try to accept them, they just seem so large. Um, and I can accept them partly, and I guess I'm doing a lot of skillful distraction.
I mean, and in between, like just accepting them. I mean, what the just the general experience? I'm sort of just as a kind of interest and curiosity of is do you find that there is just like a is it more like sort of does it tend to be more sort of a restlessness, anxiety, worry, fear, terror? Does it tend to have sort of repetitive content or familiar content, or are you saying it just can kind of go on whatever the content really can
Sure.
just be anything?
Well, okay, it's a lot of fear and terror, and sometimes the thoughts get very um, dire. It's a lot about failure or not living up to things, not being integrated in life, um, worthiness, I guess, but failure to to just be a regular human being, let alone a good meditator. And then there's a bit of a arrogance that I'm, because I'm pursuing the Buddhist path and because I'm suffering, I'm a little bit better, which is ridiculous. And I see it as ridiculous, but it's still there.
Yeah, well, that'll be there.
Yeah, we're much better, Victor. You might as well.
Do you
You
want to
might as
be a
well.
regular,
You
successful
might as well
person?
just face that and have some equanimity with it. I'm
Yeah,
just kidding. But
yeah. Space. I work on space a lot. Just give it space and let not engage with it and let it go. Um, but it's so fiercely persistent. It's not weakening.
Mm.
did
Well,
you? Uh, who go,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
can I just say a
Yeah.
little, it just, I think, part of what's so hard is our time frame for measurement is insufficient, in terms of weakening or strengthening related to intensity, is it is one of these sort of paradoxes sometimes of the practice that we talk about, which is that, that sometimes the more engaged with it we are, the more mindful of it we are, the stronger it seems, right? But that
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't
often the case.
necessarily mean that it's actually getting stronger, but nevertheless, that to acknowledge your experience of that and the feeling of that is, yeah, well, it's very
When I'm
overwhelming.
engaged in outer things, it's there, but it's less, and I have a lot of time by myself. So then the mind goes naturally to it.
Hmm. Yeah. I know Michelle has some things to say. I mean, I think that what is very powerful, one of the things that's very powerful about it is your, the stability, the courage that it's taking to keep going through it. And,
Enormous.
in these sort of more, more refined, more gross, more direct, more sort of background ways, over time. But I think your understanding, your sensitivity, the acknowledgement that just like how much of it has to do with identity and identification
Mm,
with
yeah.
our own success, our own failure, our own ambition, our own, and like what is that uh and whatever that means for us, right? However we're interpreting success, whether it's in terms of something external in the world, something internal in terms of practice, in terms of ethics, in terms of whatever, um, just that sense, the persistent I, and that other, that the training you have is towards a sort of negative or insufficient relationship to that me versus other people where it's like, more on the, uh, you know, uh, aggrandized, confident side of things, right? That in some ways it's still the same mechanism to sort of understand. Of course, one is easier to sort of walk around the world in, and one feels more debilitating, of course, but it's very powerful, your recognition of that. I mean, I think it's like always important to be careful of when you judge that, when you're, whether it's sort of playful sarcasm or not, just that sense of, yes, we recognize it's ridiculous on one hand, but there's a space in between recognizing and feeling that me and the decision and the sort of trying to kind of push back on it as ridiculous. I think,
Well, I spend a lot of effort to welcome it and
hmm,
be neutral or be kind. And I'm just wondering, is there something you're trying to say about how to disidentify when it feels very strong and it's there and I'm recognizing it? I'm not cajoling with it. I'm just like, I'm kind of terrified by some of the feelings directed, the identifications, the I,
right.
the voices that come about failure or
Yeah.
doom.
I mean, I think I know Michelle will have something to say, but I do feel it's not that you're doing anything wrong, that you have an incredible set of skills and that you're attending to it in all these ways. I think it's something about like you recognize, right? When you're engaged in the world and your attention is external and you're connected with people or whatever it is, right? In a way that feels stronger, that feels more confident, but feels more connected, whatever, right? It's more in the background. It's not as strong, or its momentariness is sort of, more noticeable. It's sort of fleeting. It maybe pops in here and there, but it's not as strong. And then when you're back in a more secluded place, which is, a little bit of a, on one hand, it's a protection that you've created. On the other hand, you can have the sort of like whiplash, right? Of like
Yeah.
the after you've engaged, the doubt kind of flood that can come in, right? Of like, oh, was this too much of this or was that whatever? I mean, that type of thing that can happen. So it's, of course, this is not, this is a very difficult thing to be uh, negotiating. And it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, just don't be alone and be out in the world all the time. But there is something where you can see that there is a rhythm, there is a pattern that is not personal to the intensity, right? And the sort of more foreground, more background. And just that fact is one of these things where we hope that it is like a reminder of the impersonal nature of it, like there's a mechanical quality to this tendency, to this pattern, and that there are things that bring it to the foreground, there are things that put it in the background, and just that is something to help us. Again, it's more of a neutralizing of the intensity of the identification. It's not a countering it. It's not a sort of like, which sometimes we need to do, to say, no, that's ridiculous and stop believing that, right? And there's other times where we don't think about it because we're engrossed in something else. But that sense of like a more neutral relationship to it, I think of course, it's very hard. It's not like just turn on the neutral,
Yeah, it's really hard.
sure.
Yeah.
But there's like ways of starting to sort of relate to it as a kind of a mechanism, as a non-personal mechanism,
Mm.
through the recognition of patterns, right? That are impersonal patterns. That is one way to start kind of building that in. Michelle, I don't
When
know.
I
Yeah.
I'm observing myself, let's say, um, outside in the morning having a smoke or something, the neutral seems kind of very painfully empty, kind of gray. And I do, I'm able to step outside of the dialogue, but what's outside is not warm. It's stark, stark. Yeah.
What about pleasant? Do you ever seek out pleasant?
I all the time. I want pleasant all the time. Sometimes at bed I just stroke myself or put my hand on my heart or I'm saying mantra a lot during the day. Mm, I really take a bit of time to enjoy food. Uh, I tell myself, okay, I'm going for a walk. I'm going to notice the pleasant and direct myself to the trees and away from the traffic. And it's ongoing like labor to try and sense the pleasant. The other day there was an amazing sunset unfolding, and I thought, oh, this could be beautiful, but it's very hard to feel. And I kept looking at it and just softly letting it touch me a little bit, and it only touched a little bit.
So it's great to see you. I'm glad you're like
Yeah, it's time
reaching
to
out.
check
Yeah,
in.
but
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, there's so many ways to try to approach this. Um, I mean, I think that like if I just step back and I look at my family, for example, just to give you a sense, my grandmother, who I never knew, my mother's mother, never left the house. She was so scared. She never left the house, ever. And then my mother, I think, tried alcohol as a way to find courage, but she drowned bad, right? So, um, I think I understand the wiring, so like we all have a wiring, like, the the way the houses or apartments are wired. You don't see the wiring, right? But we all have a wiring that's actually quite different. And some people are just wired for fear. Some people are wired for greed. Look at who we have
Mm.
running things, right? Like you have a certain wiring. And I think, for example, um, I don't know if you relate to the word vulnerable at all, but like sometimes I would recommend not when you're triggered, not when you're drowning in fear, but like kind of like sometimes maybe to distinguish between being vulnerable. So for example, I'm going to give an example. Like, you're wired to have these certain thoughts, right? But other people are wired for a whole different set of thinking that are equally difficult, right? Or some people are wired for um, a kind of ambition that they look successful, but they're actually not happy at all, right? Like there's a lot of ways that humans are wired. Um, but often, I think sometimes that failure feeling is out of comparison, right? It'll be a comparison of your wiring and how you've managed to get through life. Like from my perspective, you're doing great. Given the wiring, you're doing great, right? But
Yeah,
it's like that's the comparing needs to be like if I compare myself with my mom and my grandmother, I'm like, I'm doing great, right? And so
amazing.
that's important. I'm going to stress it because it's important because look at what you took
I
birth in,
I
right?
know that I reviewed um, in detail what my mother and father were up against and what they offered, which is so confused and uh, little and painful, even oppressive. But I've tried forgiving them, but and I see how many steps. Let's see, they came from their conditioning, and how what the vast distance I've traveled from their way. But I
Right.
don't get um, a pleasure or even a decent, good sense, a little bit of sense. Like I love the Dharma. I've come a long way. I get a small sense of that's amazing work. A small
Right.
sense. Yeah.
Right. And then it's like the relationship, me. I'm gonna focus on how old that fear feels. Like if it feels 2 years old, 5 years old. I mean, in terms of one way to work with this, it's like I want you to be able to like get a relationship with that part of you and to ask that part of you what they need. And no, and even this last 50 lifetimes, right? Or 2 seconds, it's like there's some part of you that isn't accepting that that relationship is not intact.
What relationship with myself? With
No, to that whatever terror is tripping you up, and then those thoughts, whatever's going on, you do not have a relationship of
oh
enough compassion
no,
to,
no, I
to
don't.
do many things. Like sometimes I want you to fight it. I want you to actually get out there and see those thoughts and fight them. Other times you have compassion. You need a you need movement and
Yeah.
instead of getting frozen, I mean, I could go on and
That's the
on, but
pull. The pull is to freeze to be safe.
I know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I'm going toward.
Yeah. Sign up for a kickboxing class.
Exactly.
I
Hmm.
mean, Victor, what you're describing, I don't know if you can hear this, but like it's so it's so amazing. Right. What like we had someone there was a very new yogi at the on the retreat who was like trying to understand this thing about like non-attachment to outcome, right? And they were like, "What do you mean? Like, isn't that ridiculous to like I do something and I do it for a reason. And like, of course, I want there to be an outcome for it, you know? Like, how can you say, like, what is that even? What is the structure? What is the framework by which we are not attached to that, you know? And where's the logic to that? And so, this sense of how impossible that actually is to describe on some level, and yet the purity that is insisted on over and over again of like you can do good actions, you can do the practice, you can do things for all kinds of motivations, right? And one aspect of that motivation is to get something out of it, right? Karmically or pleasure or whatever. I mean, it's all karma in a way, right? But that sense of like, well, you want a good, future outcome, but even like you want a little bit of like satisfaction in the practice. You want a little pleasure, right? And that is built into the schema on one hand, right? Where there's like wholesome pleasure that comes out of concentration, etc. And yet there is this like insistence on the superior action is without expectation of any outcome.
Mm.
And that is it's such a high standard that we all are going to fail at that. And it's talked about mostly actually in the context of the bodhisattva, right? Not the in the sort of Mahayana sense, but in the sense of the person who chooses at some point that they want to actually become a Buddha, not just any old arhat, that they want to become a Buddha. And they want that, which means like you have perfected all of these incredible qualities, like let's say determination, right? Adhitana,
Or patience. Ha
or
ha ha.
patience, or like and this sense of like, okay, when people sign up for that, do they really know what that like you're talking about tens of thousands of lifetimes, right? Or hundreds of thousands of lifetimes of like not getting what you want, like not being satisfied, like having to see how attached we are to the result of any action. And like that is such a tall order. And I just have to say, the value of pain in general in terms of a yogi is that it's concentrating, right? And it 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 will make you work in a way that if you don't have a lot of pain and things are basically okay, often there is a sense of like, well, people can kind of coast and people can kind of float. And like I don't think you probably have any idea of how much harder you're working at, in not in with even the instruction to like go easy on the practice, how much harder you're actually working than most people who are Buddhists, who are practitioners, who are yogis,
Mm.
right? That you are every day really you are having to find a very pure and very powerful motivation to do what you're doing, right?
Yeah, up
And
against it.
because you're up against it all the time. Yeah, exactly. And that you're not getting the result of it that you're longing for. And yet
Mm.
it's like, wow, that is a so what is motivating it? Of course there's still want. Of course, right? There's the thirst for pleasure and the desire for that. And it's not unreasonable, and there's a place for that, right? And how amazing to be as determined as you are, to be as patient as will, but I feel like that determination, the will, that dedicatedness to the practice, the Dhamma, yourself, whatever, however you want to phrase it, it's very beautiful. It's very
Yeah, thank
beautiful.
you. I appreciate that. Um, it's a good way to frame it. I am working extremely hard, and I um, am afraid of you know, it's a dissolving process, or I'm falling to pieces. But I'm working extremely hard, and I feel like all my good karma is years ago, and these thoughts and things are um, new new rotten karma, which is eroding my previous good karma. But it's nice to hear that it's good ardent practice because I have no other choice.
I think you do have other choices, and you're not making them, and that is a sign of something very profound, right?
Well,
And,
I'm
and
zoning out
these
a
aren't
lot, like playing a
underwriting
video
other
game.
old comma. It doesn't, they say it doesn't work like that. So, it's like you are taking it seriously. You're taking your mind and body seriously. And I don't think that we're pretending that it isn't hard. Of course, I think that it really comes through. But I, I know, of course, you're going to be afraid because that's part of this thing that Michelle is talking. It's the fear, right? That
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
not able to have yet a, the relationship you need to have with it. What and all of the different dimensions of what that relationship might look like, right? In one
Like,
moment, it might look like love. In one moment, it might look like the kickboxer. And another moment, it looks like something else. Um,
yeah, I
and
would
you're
like to
doing,
say something about that,
yeah.
which is there's hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, right? There's the six sense doors. And for you, fear is it's like hearing, it's just the wire the wiring. It's okay. It's like a lot of it is just like accepting that and accepting that it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be afraid. Now, when you're drowning, of course, you're doing, there's a lot of, like Jesse just said, and what I've been saying, a lot of different ways you're going to need to approach this. But basically, it's like if somebody was saying that they're angry all the time, right? Or lonely all the time, or like it's fear. Fear is afraid. Loneliness is lonely. Happiness is happy. It's like that's what's going on is that getting caught in the thoughts is getting caught in the object of the fear, right? You're getting caught in the object of the fear, but actually, the more that you keep coming back to like yourself, but also recognizing that you're doing it all. It's like you're describing something that you've taken so much space, you're really working with it well, and it's still hard.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not like
Yeah.
you're
Well,
not having, like, your karma is not that you're experiencing a lot of pleasant feeling, Vedana. It's like you're not experiencing so much neutral, you're not experiencing so much pleasant, you're experiencing unpleasant Vedana. But
that's
that's
my biggest noting in the day, unpleasant, unpleasant, or a more, less aware, like stop this thing. But what I hear you saying is when I experience the fear in the fear, then it helps disidentify.
you got to pull back from the objects. You got to
Yeah.
pull back from the object of the fear big time. It's like I would do that. Your New Year's resolution as best you can. Just keep pulling back as best you can from the object of the fear.
The content. Yeah.
Yeah. Like whether it's thought or like, it's like I mean, I could go into this whole other thing, which is your intrinsic value. You have so much intrinsic value. It's like the level to which we are in a culture that doesn't give us intrinsic value without anything that we do, anything that we accomplish, anything who we are. But everybody has to get old and not be able to do anything anymore. And everybody gets born and they have nothing that they can do to make themselves lovable except that they are born and they have intrinsic value. You have 100% intrinsic value. And even when you're 100% afraid, you have intrinsic value.
Okay.
That's the other way to work with it. There's, like I wouldn't make it complicated, but it's like the believing the thoughts about failure is driving you further and further away from your goodness. And like Jesse and I are so happy to see you. Like
Yeah, thank you.
you have
It's
this
been many,
intrinsic,
many times I didn't come on to say hi.
right? Please do.
Mm.
We miss you. We love you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
Since you said never lose your goodness, I have a little white quartz I found on the beach. It's my goodness stone, and I sometimes take it with me, or sometimes I just imagine it in my hand. It's like hanging on, hanging on to that little stone.
Sleep with it.
It's right by my bed every night. Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful, Victor. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's really important.
Thanks,
And of
Jesse.
course, yes, so good to see you.
Thanks, Michelle. Good to see you.
Yeah, very good. Mm. I hope you can soak it in a little bit right now. That's important, receiving your goodness.
Mm. Mm.
There's a person with their hand up, and I can't. It says owner, so I don't know what your name is, but I'll call you owner. I think that's kind of cool. If you can unmute, we can. Let's see. There we go. Great.
I apologize that my name isn't showing. The tech guy that set this up for me put that there, but I will get it fixed.
I know it's very profound. Who
Though I'm not
is there
hiding.
ownership?
I'm
Owner
not
of
actually hiding. Michelle knows
Becca, I
me
think it's Becca, right?
by the name Becca.
Yeah.
I know. And it's taken me months to get up the courage to join. I haven't seen you in 8 years or 10 years, Cortez Island.
hmm
And I had no idea. I've been out there going through this huge thing, and I'm in a transition period now, and I'm coming out of hiding. And you're the person I wanted to connect to. And now that I'm here, I didn't know I would spend this entire hour crying. I'm just overwhelmed. I feel really overwhelmed. I'm in a big transition period, and I feel so thin skinned and vulnerable to be here. And the wounded place in me is here saying, I bet Michelle will not be so happy to see me join this group. That's the wounded place in there. It's like every wound I've worked my way through, it seems to be on the surface. Right? So I will get it fixed that my name will show. And I would like to start joining and doing online retreats. And Michelle, you've been a very important person to me for a long time because it felt like you were the only IMS teacher who had an intuitive understanding of my practice. And that thread has been important to me. So I'm just glad to be back, and I will get my name put up, I promise. It's just so good to see you. It's just overwhelming. I'm because I've been hiding out, working my way through all this really heavy material that I used to go out in the woods to cry over. So I'm coming out of that, and I just feel so vulnerable. So it's really good to see you, Michelle.
It's good to see you. You're saying everybody's favorite words: overwhelm, vulnerable,
Yeah.
thin-skinned. It's like,
Yes. I mean, I can feel the armoring that I used to live in.
yeah.
And now I just feel like I have no skin. And that's a scary place. Thank you for being here. I'm in North Carolina, in Asheville, by the way.
Yeah, birdie told me. I already
Yes,
know a
I
little
saw her
birdie
this
told
morning. I saw her this morning.
me. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
good to see you. Uh-uh.
I don't really have a question, but
No,
thank you.
it's good. It's good. That was, you
Mute.
know. Time and timelessness are very interesting. So 8 years and timelessness, it's just, it's okay, however we're relating to time and how long something is or
Is it
not.
8 years? I think, is it 8 years since I saw you on
Well,
Cortez Island?
yeah, it was Cortez, but please
Yeah,
don't ask me the date.
I know, I know.
Way beyond
I
dates.
know, and now we're both old
Yes,
ladies.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Timelessness, time, holding both in our hearts. Yeah.
David, did you have a question? Let's see. Unmute there.
Yeah, hi. Um, Michelle, a few weeks ago, actually it's probably more than a month ago by now, you used the term, which I took to mean kind of a marriage between awareness and concentration, a kind of samadhi. And I'm wondering what that term was.
Did I use the word marriage?
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
mine, merit.
Oh,
That's how I interpreted your
okay.
term.
So what is the question?
There was a term that you used. It was either Sanskrit or Pali.
Okay. Oh, Kanika. I think
Probably Kanika.
Jesse, you
Yes.
might help me, but Kanika Samadhi. Yeah, Kanika Samadhi is very interesting because mostly we're all forgetting that in Vipassana you're practicing as best you can Kanika Samadhi, which means that you're not trying to stay with one object. You're not trying to stay with one thing, but you're trying to train the attention, the concentration to actually be able to stay with change and changing things that are appearing and disappearing, rather than choosing one thing and forcing the attention and controlling the attention to stay just with one thing. So to stay with one thing that it isn't changing takes enormous control. And you're ignoring the rest of reality. So you're with 1% of reality and you're ignoring 99%.
Gotcha.
Right. And so in Vipassana, you're trying to develop an attention that can include more and more as you practice. If you learn how to practice being with sounds changing, body sensations changing, right, thoughts changing, they're not staying static at all. Even emotion, fears, it's changing moment by moment, right? Happiness, it's all changing moment by moment. And that is, if you would say, the goal of Vipassana is being able to be including all of reality, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, and also, of course, we can't control what's happening. So it's always like new. It's always new, always changing, always new. Yeah. A tall order. So hence we teach anchoring so that you get a sense of being with something smaller, but it's still changing. So you're choosing to pick a safe harbor to rest in as best you can, until there are times when you can find the rest in change, in being with change. Jesse, do you want to add anything to it? Or, and it's very interesting because it's often something we tend to forget.
It's beautiful what you've just said. And it's, yeah, I kind of wanted to know more when you said it, but you've just told me
Yeah.
more.
And the safe refuge, it's like, I think also people really forget how important safe harbors are, depending on what's happening in our life and in the world. And, it's like safe harbor, safe harbor, safe harbor. It's like finding the rest to then have the courage to be with things as they are, right? Finding the rest to develop enough energy to have the courage to be with things as they are. That will change for us in our life and over time. So sometimes we're going to need more rest or all rest. Sometimes we're going to need less, right? So it's just a matter of having the understanding of what you're asking. The more we understand this, the more um, we can be flexible.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a great question because it's really the crux of what we're doing. And then, of course, the Brahma Viharas are another kind of rest, right? They're a kind of understanding that it's good to connect with pain, with care, or good to connect with goodness, the loving kindness, good to connect with appreciation, joy, pleasant, and good to connect with the acceptance of how things are, peace. So like, yeah, it's having all these um, learning more ways that we can choose how we can try to be with how things are, basically, without judging how we have to do that, right? Not metta again. Oh no, I'm joking, but it's like, oh no, not the breath again, or not the, we tend to just think that somehow we should be having a different experience. It's good to look at other beings, really. I have this big red ant infestation in my bathroom, and it's like, I keep looking at them like, can't you like move? Like, can't you like go somewhere else, but they don't seem to understand me, but it's really interesting, we're all different beings, and basically I'm sure they're thinking, why can't she just like let us live here,
Right.
right? It's like, it's just, the world is so strange, being on the planet is so odd. But we're sharing the planet with all these other beings that also want to have a reasonable time themselves.
Right.
It's very challenging.
It is.
Yeah, so Kanika Samadhi is actually challenging. Vipassana is challenging because it's facing how things are.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, it's good. It's a good question. Glad you asked it. Yeah. I
I
mean,
think sometimes it's like this, how we hold this, kanika samadhi, or momentary concentration, in this kind of lineage and tradition is, it's a source of, and how others do, it's a source of, debate. And the important thing, I think, is to recognize that it's kind of, just as Michelle's describing it, it's hard because you're jumping into the instability, right? And the other kind of concentration, that's like a fixed concentration, where you're fabricating stability in your mind, is very powerful. And you can, there's legitimate lineages and traditions that are about doing that, and then letting it go. And then from that place of, engrossed concentration, you are able to watch the changing stuff happen, in a profound way. And there's a logic to that. There's a reasonableness to that. And we have found, and I think it's partly why we have so much confidence in this, and in this lineage and this approach, is that there is an understanding that the practices that keep creating lots of kind of constructed stability can be very deregulating for lay people who are living lives that are, to be kind of going in and out of these like hyper concentrated states, actually can be very destabilizing in a way that's not helpful. And that learning to be with the instability of things from the very beginning provides a more stable long-term foundation, right? Where we're not shocked or surprised by the fact that everything is moving, because that's the whole training, is being momentarily keeping up with that. And that 100%, in all of the practical understanding and experience, and in the doctrinal and textual things, that Kanika Samadhi, when developed to its highest capacity, is equivalent, right, to that other more engrossing kind of jhanic, absorptive concentration, in terms of what's needed for insight to happen. That you're actually able to stay with experience as quickly as it's happening, which is like unbelievably fast, but that the mind can be trained into that. And that as that happens, that we are able to really kind of fathom the more, these fundamental nature of things, which is, just the things we keep saying, but that it's fathomed internally in a different way, in terms of impermanence, constructed, undependable nature of things. And that the liberated mind comes from that, comes from this ability to be able to be with things as they actually are, as rapidly as they are arising and passing. And so it's, it's not, like Michelle said, it's not really that complicated. It's like, yeah, you're watching the breath go up and down, and that's the training. The sound rising, passing, a thought coming and going. It's the same training of watching all objects change and develop to its utmost is, profoundly transformative. So it's a really important question, and really, I think we're always happy to talk about it, because it's like, it's so much of the essence of the practice. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Well, I know that it's like this paradox, that Michele mentions in the beginning, of like this time of darkness that's such an invitation to quiet. And it's such an invitation to the internal and the mysterious and the rest, and of course that is like not how the next couple of weeks look like for most people. And there you go. That's the reality, and why the practice is just, of course, always important. And we know that it's just such volatile times in general. The holidays have that huge range for all of us, of like joy and sorrow and anxiety and frustration and excitement and sweets and things that are bad for our cholesterol. So it's it's an incredible time to practice, as we like to say. So, we just, of course, it's like that. We know that there's often busyness, and that some of that is very joyful and good. Some of it is just the way things are. But to not forget the beauty of the night, these long nights, and this, especially if you're in colder weather, these crisp, starry nights, and the beauty of that, to take in the darkness and the quietude of that, and the sacredness of it, because that is as much of a part of the teaching of the season as the lights and the festivities and the gathering together, So we always hold all of it, of course, in our practice. So good luck with it.
And I would just add, it's almost incomprehensible how busy human beings get in a time that would be more natural to quiet down. And so it's just maybe appreciating the darkness so much, being able to recognize that when you have a candle in the darkness, how you might value kindness more than ever, right? Or I think the meaning of this time is you value even the smallest light, right? More than ever. You value the stars, right? More than ever. That light that is so incredibly immense and powerful, but the sun and the moon tend to make them less approachable. So yeah, there's so much meaning at this time of year, but it can get obscured. Being able to love the darkness and really learn from it is so important.
Take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week.